In the 6th century Basilica of Saint Apollinare in Ravenna, Italy, may lie the answer to a question most central to our existence. What happened to Jesus' beard? On one side of Saint Apollinare, Jesus is depicted with a beard, but on the other he's clean-shaven. Bearded, clean-shaven, bearded, clean-shaven. It turns out for the first 500 years after his death, Jesus was largely depicted as a beardless youth, so the question still remains. Where did he get his beard? One answer is that it comes from Egypt. From the birth of Christ to the year 300, Hellenistic Egyptians depicted their deceased loved ones with startling realism in mummy masks. Imperial Egypt contained the largest population of Jews outside of Palestine itself. In the city of Alexandria alone, there were over 1 million Jews. Modern anthropologists use the remains of 1st century Jewish burials to reconstruct this image as a possible model of Jesus' face. And the resemblance is remarkable. This tradition of religious panel painting was transferred to Coptic Christian art through the production of religious icons. Traveling westward, it showed up in the catacombs of Rome. It became known in Western art as the Syrian or Semitic Jesus. Another possible answer to where Jesus got his beard brings us to Greece, where there is an old tradition of depicting renowned philosophers with beards. These philosophers sought to imitate the image of the chief god Zeus, whom they believed to be the divine mind from which all divinity sprang. One mosaic in Saint Apollinaire depicts Jesus as a teacher among philosophers. This depiction is modeled after the School of Athens, a popular subject and agent in early modern art. Probably the best-known example is Raphael's masterpiece depicting secretly Raphael, Donatello, Michelangelo, and most humorously Leonardo da Vinci as Socrates. Like, cowabunga, dude! The teacher among philosophers motif made its way into early Christian art. For the first few centuries of Christianity, it appeared in the catacombs and on sarcophagi of rich Christians. Slowly it emerged in mosaics of early Christian basilicas after the legalization of Christianity. But Jesus did not adopt the beard of his audience until the 6th century depiction of him at Saint Apollinare. Could Jesus have gotten his thick and luxuriant beard from the barbarians who toppled the Roman Empire in the 5th and 6th centuries? The Romans certainly had a long acquaintance with facial hair from north of the Alps. The barbarian successors counted long hair and beards as a mark of royalty and greatly prized them. In their intrigues and struggles, Frankish nobles would often shave the head and face of their vanquished foes and lock them away in monasteries as a mark of humiliation. This came to be seen as a mark of humility and may explain the tradition of why monks began shaving their heads. However, these nobles would often reappear several years later at the head of a rebellion, of course fully bearded. In the earliest parts of the Germanic invasions, Jesus was depicted in Germanic style. However, as time passed, Jesus cleaned up quite nicely. So did the German kings in a bid to look more like Caesar and therefore justify the rule. Ironically, as Germanic kings in the West were cleaned up to look more like emperors, the emperors who ruled what remained of the Eastern Roman Empire were scruffing up to look more like the new Germanic subjects. And Jesus followed suit. Both Jesus and kings would go back and forth until around the year 1200. Another explanation might be found in the iconography of the Eastern Church. Icons of Jesus, such as this one, which is the oldest surviving of Jesus, were largely patterned after a famous relic called the Image of Edessa. This cloth, with the image of Christ on it, was purportedly given to the king of Edessa by the Saviour himself, and was said to contain his exact likeness. This ensured the image's reproduction in many icons of the early Middle Ages. Unfortunately, many of these were lost in the iconoclastic struggles of the 700s and 800s. One of the likely reproductions that did survive was the Veil of Veronica. Legend has it that Veronica acquired the Lord's image by offering her veil to dry the Lord's sweat as he carried the cross. However, the first record of the veil is from the Crusades. The image of Edessa and the Veil of Veronica were the first widely popular portrayals of Jesus. Unfortunately, neither survived. Nonetheless, they ensured a remarkable standardization of both Eastern and Western iconography out of a desire to transmit as authentic a portrait of Jesus as possible. So, why did Jesus have a beard? Maybe because when he grew up, he grew one.